We'll fire anyone who can't meet their quotas. The younger section chief, eager to reprimand me as I desperately bowed my head, unable to meet this month's quota. I understand. I'll resign. Pushed to the edge, both mentally and physically, I decided to leave the company. Oh my, really quitting? It'll be tough for an old man like you to lose your job, you know, the section chief scoffed at me. The day after I quit the company, I received a call from an ex-team member on my smartphone. What's up? It's terrible. Please come back, Mr. Watson. Apparently, since the day I left, calls from our contract companies had been non-stop. Firing him was a foolish move. The words from a client would eventually force the section chief to bow deeply to me. My name is Benjamin Watson. I lost my father to illness when I was a child. I'm sorry for always making you feel lonely. It's okay, Mom. With no relatives nearby, my mom raised me all by herself. Growing up watching my mom work from dawn till dusk, I wanted to do whatever I could to lighten her load. Mom, I'm going to work as soon as I finish high school. I'm sorry, I've only caused you hardships. It's okay, just leave it to me. Despite saying that, finding a job right out of high school was tough. I couldn't pass the initial screenings and couldn't even make it to an interview. I was unemployed for about a month. But when I kept sending out resumes everywhere, only one company passed me through the screening. It was a sales position at an insurance company. Anxiety crossed my mind. I'd heard that working for an insurance company was demanding, with strict quotas. However, my desire to secure a job and reassure my mom was stronger. I headed to the interview, determined to get the job. Whether they recognized my enthusiasm or they were simply short on staff, I was hired on the spot. Fast forward 35 years, I'm still working on the front lines as a salesperson, handling corporate clients. My monthly sales just barely meet the quota, and I'm completely off the promotion track. But perhaps my original diligent character is still alive. I've earned the trust of my clients with my polite service. I want to ask about this insurance. Is that okay? Then, may I visit you this afternoon? Sure, I appreciate it. Even on my days off, if someone called, I would head to them. My sole intention was to alleviate their concerns as much as possible. Mr. Watson, are you taking enough time off? Huh. Well, yeah. You say that, but you're probably not, right? It's unfair that clients have days off, but it seems like salespeople don't. But not knowing things can be unsettling, so it can't be helped. The workload increased, but I wanted to work for the sake of others. Working like this, I often receive words of gratitude, which fuels me. It's a great help that you come right away when I call. Thank you. No problem. Call me anytime. However, my work style was disliked by one of my boss. Selling such cheap insurance, you must be quite proud of yourself. Proud? I didn't mean to, but every insurance policy is important when you consider the client's needs. I responded confidently to Section Chief Howard, who didn't bother to hide his disdain. Section Chief Howard is a boss who was recently transferred from headquarters to our sales department. Unlike me, a high school graduate, he's an elite who graduated from a well-known university, and apparently big expectations were placed on him from the head office. You can tell by the fact that he's been made a section chief, nearly 20 years younger than me. Are you feeling superior just because you've been working for over 30 years and still haven't been promoted? From Section Chief Howard's point of view, it seemed I was incompetent. In fact, looking at my sales quota, I couldn't argue. Since you're my team member, I'm in trouble if you don't bring in solid numbers. It seemed that Section Chief Howard was aiming for further promotion, using this position as a stepping stone, and he was quite enthusiastic. Although that in itself isn't bad, I just couldn't bring myself to follow his directives. Listen up, you guys! Selling cheap products to small businesses doesn't make a profit. Target the big fish. Sell them our best, proudest products. Section Chief Howard rallied the young salesmen and sent them out. Section Chief Howard's policy was to sell the best insurance to large accounts. In other words, to push the product with the highest premiums. I didn't like this approach. The insurance that Section Chief Howard was pushing covered various things and could fully prepare for any contingency. However, the higher the coverage, the higher the cost, which I didn't find conscientious. Insurance for any eventuality should not become a daily burden. Moreover, it included insurance that the client might not really need. Section Chief Howard said things like, "Consider the maximum possible occurrence, stir up anxiety, and make them feel the need for insurance. This is a sales skill." But to me, that's a ridiculous idea. I value providing insurance that suits each company, regardless of their size, by listening to each one. Because of this, it takes time, and I end up working late every day, but it's necessary to get their understanding. Section Chief Howard disregarded this. "Your way of working is really inefficient. Sell more quickly and earn more." Sorry. While apologizing, I ignored Section Chief Howard and I continued my way. Even though I was going against my boss, I couldn't confidently say that my way was absolutely right. "Are you listening to me?" "Huh? What did you say?" I had been neglecting my time with my family. Coming home late every night, I had almost no time with them. Exhausted from work, I was always inattentive to what my wife said. "I just want to spend more time with you." "I'm sorry, I'm just tired from work." "On your days off, you should really rest. I'm worried about your health." My wife was unhappy about the limited time we spent as a family. Even though I was supposed to be working for my family, they were voicing their dissatisfaction. Is this really okay? I was constantly questioning myself. And then my way of doing things hit a wall. Oh my, you couldn't meet your quota. I'm very sorry. I couldn't meet this month's quota. Section Chief Howard took this opportunity to scold me as I desperately apologized. "Mr. Watson, do you think you can make up for it next month?" "Well, that's... If the quota isn't met, the shortfall for this month must be added to next month's. As I'm barely meeting the quota as it is, the possibility of making it seemed incredibly low. If you can't, maybe you should consider becoming part-time?" Part-time? Can there really be a part-time salesman? While I was confused, Section Chief Howard smirked. "If you don't want that, then you're fired." I was declared fired. Fired. However, when I said it out loud for some reason, the word went down easily. I can't say I have no regrets about my current job, but haven't I been working hard, even cutting into my family time? I thought it might be good to accept being fired and treasure the family time I hadn't had until now. I pictured my wife's face. "Understood, I'll resign." "Oh my, really quitting? It's going to be tough for an old man like you to lose your job." Section Chief Howard continued to say things, but I bowed my head and returned to my seat. Having worked here for a long time since graduating high school, I would probably have to hand over my tasks. I started the process of resigning. That day, unusually, I came home on time. When I opened the front door, my wife, with a surprised look on her face, greeted me. At first she looked puzzled, but then she broke into a smile. "You're home early today. Dinner isn't ready yet. Could you wait a bit?" "Ah, thank you." This might have been the first time I really watched my wife cooking since we got married. I realized how much of my time had been consumed by work. "Well, I've decided to quit my job." "I see." My wife didn't ask for details when I told her I was resigning. The next day, I submitted my resignation to Section Chief Howard. He had a broad smile on his face. It seems like he was pleased. "Please, get the handover done quickly." Understood. I cleaned up my desk and explained my responsibilities to the person taking over. Until I quit, I visited clients together with my replacement. "What? Mr. Watson, you're quitting?" "Yes, well, there were many clients who tried to persuade me to stay, but I politely said my goodbyes. And then a month later, I left the company. Leaving the company I'd worked at for so long was sad, but my heart felt light. My wife seemed to be in a good mood, even though I was now unemployed. "You're not worried, even though I'm unemployed?" "Not at all. I was more worried that you were working too hard and might collapse one day." My wife had always been worried about me. I had been working so much that I made her worry. Why not? You've worked hard up to now. It's okay to take a break. Right. Thanks for always worrying about me. How about we go on a trip? We have plenty of time now. That sounds great. Let's go to a hot spring to heal from years of exhaustion. My wife was very happy when I invited her on a trip. So, the next day, we quickly set off on a hot spring trip. However, while I was relaxing with my wife on the trip, I got a call on my smartphone from an ex-team member. What's up? It's terrible! Mr. Watson, please come back! I was surprised at my ex-team member's panic, but I asked him to explain. He said that since the day I quit, the company has been getting non-stop calls from our contract partners. They all said they wanted to cancel the contract now that I've quit. So many calls were coming in that it was interfering with their regular work. Not just the calls, but if all these contracts are canceled at once, it will be a huge issue for the company. Can't you please come back? I won't be coming back. What? Deal with each company sincerely and carefully. That's it. My ex-team member was still talking, but I hung up and turned off my smartphone. My wife, who had been watching the exchange, looked puzzled. What happened? My ex-team member asked me to come back. So they realized how amazing you were after you left. Huh. My wife was in a good mood after hearing the story. Although I missed my work, if I went back, I wouldn't be able to see my wife's face like this. I decided not to return to work, for my wife's sake as well. Seeing an expression she didn't show while I was working. After that, I blocked out the calls from my ex-team member and enjoyed the trip. While out for a walk, my wife invited me to an old-style cafe. This is a nice place, isn't it? I've always wanted to come here. You know your cafes. At my words, my wife looked a little sad. I wondered if I said something strange. You know, visiting cafes is my hobby. Oh, I didn't know that. Indeed, cafes are fashionable and have cute food, so I'm sure many women like them. I'm actually a certified barista. Did you know? What? That's amazing. I've mentioned before that visiting cafes is my hobby and about my certification. The tone of my wife's voice dropped, and I hurriedly bowed my head. When I was working, I was tired and didn't really listen to my wife's stories. Well, it's okay. When we get home, I'll make you some of my special coffee. True to her word, when we returned from the trip, my wife made me coffee. It was completely different from the instant coffee I usually had. Delicious! I can't believe I can drink this at home. I'll make it for you any time. From then on, my day began with the coffee my wife brewed for me every morning. Spending more time with my family, I found there were many things I didn't know. While regretting that I had neglected my family until now, I decided to cherish my time with my wife. A few days later, I received a call from Chief Howard. I hesitated whether to answer, but considering the recent situation with my ex-team member, I pressed the call button. Mr. Watson, I was wrong. I'm sorry. Could you please come back? Chief Howard apologized to me and asked me to return to the company. After I quit, it seems that Chief Howard had to deal with the endless calls from our contract partners. He had visited our partners and apologized. Mr. Watson was always kind and considerate. Amidst the many people trying to push insurance, he was a rare breed these days. Chief Howard had heard from our partners how much they appreciated me. This wasn't just one or two companies. It was the same everywhere he went. Firing him was a foolish move. Strongly criticized, Chief Howard seemed to have deeply realized that his sales approach was wrong. Hearing the words of the customers conveyed by Chief Howard, I felt warmth in my chest. I was wrong. What the customers really needed was considerate service. You are good at observing customers. I want to learn the job from scratch, under you. Chief Howard was desperate. His tone had none of the condescending attitude from before. I'm really grateful that you'd say that, but I'm not coming back. What? If you think you were wrong, then reflect on it and treat your customers right. There's no need for me to return. But I found a new job. My words left Chief Howard breathless, which was evident even over the phone. After a brief silence, he said, "I see. There's nothing we can do then." Chief Howard sounded disappointed. Then he apologized to me and hung up. While I do worry about the company I used to work for, I'm excited about starting something new. No matter how old you get, starting something new is nerve-wracking, but I'll be okay if I'm with my wife. Welcome! Together with my wife, we opened a small cafe. When I was jobless, my wife shared a little dream with me. I want to work in a cafe I love while enjoying a relaxed life in my old age. So taking my resignation as an opportunity, we decided to chase my wife's dream together. The customers were mostly my wife's friends at first, but word spread, and now our business is quite thriving. With my experience in sales, I was good at serving customers. My wife enjoyed chatting with her friends while working and always seemed happy. "Welcome! Mr. Watson?" As I greeted a customer as usual, to my surprise, it was Chief Howard. Chief Howard widened his eyes when he saw me. I couldn't help but give a wry smile and led him to an open seat. "Is this your new job?" "Yes, I started it with my wife." It seemed Chief Howard was in the middle of business. Probably he had some downtime and decided to stop by the cafe. He didn't used to visit sites much before, but it seems he's been back on the field since that incident. "You look very happy now, Mr. Watson." "Do I?" "Yes. After all, you always looked tired when you were at the company." Come to think of it, he might be right. I had felt guilty about not being able to spend time with my wife. Now, I'm enjoying my work while spending time with my wife. "You seem to be having fun, too." He seems more lively than before. "I'm training to be like you, Mr. Watson. You're my goal." Chief Howard said this, and then checked his watch and stood up. "I'll bring everyone from work next time. Thank you for the meal." Chief Howard, who said this and left the cafe, seemed light on his feet. From here on, Chief Howard is likely to grow even more. "Honey, I made coffee." "Okay, thank you." After closing the cafe, we sit side by side at the counter, sipping the coffee my wife brewed. Today was another busy day, but it was fun. Sitting at the counter with my wife, we talk about the day's work. This moment feels calm and precious. All of this is thanks to my wife. Thank you for everything. Why so formal all of a sudden? I decide to cherish these moments of laughter with my wife from now on.